You have a list of what we're giving away tonight?
Yeah, I do.
What is it?
So viewer appreciation gets grips.
Who's getting grips?
Viewer appreciation.
Okay. What else?
What's it worth?
He's getting stickers.
He's getting stickers.
Whoever the guesses that price is going to get.
Trivia, which is a good one tonight.
Oh yeah.
Gets a choice of a poster courtesy of IMM, International Motor.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Not for profit.
I'll take care of that. And what's the last thing?
And a gift from Motor Showcase Entry 2.
Okay. That's it. It's 6 o'clock.
Okay. Good.
I must begin the show immediately.
There you go.
All right?
We're ready.
I love it.
Okay.
What's the matter? Gino's in here already?
I'm Gary Semix, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A with Joe Abbate.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Joe Abbate, and you are watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. Thank you for joining me tonight. Of course, with me, as always, is the lovely Susie, and look who's with her, Gino.
My service dog.
There he is, the service dog, Gino. He's alive and kicking and on the set here, high atop the Vintage Motocross Q&A tower. As always, I want to thank our sponsors who helped put this show together. Racer X, the International Motocross Museum, Motion Pro, ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com, Sirius Studio, Vintco, Full Circle Racing, Preston Petty Product, and of course, AMSOIL. And you know what? The grassroots effort by these guys right here, Al Roof, Karl Word, Tom Miller, Larry Passman, and everybody else on this list, including Fred Hudgens and Sean Goins from FastGuyStuff.com. They really help make the show great. They share it. They buy shirts. They do everything they can. Our new sponsor, Sirius Studios. I want to thank them for joining us as well. AMSOIL. The AMSOIL special is really over, but you know what? The slide is on here from the past month or so. So you know what? If you still want a Vintage Motocross Q&A shirt, 4 products from AMSOIL, and get your name on the board behind me for just $49.95, type in the comments. I'll take the AMSOIL special for $49.95, and you'll be a sponsor or supporter of the show. It's getting close. The York Swap Meet is right around the corner, 2025. It happens on January 12th. But the night before, in a special Q&A session at the Potomac Vintage Riders Banquet, we've got Larry Meyer and I'm sorry. I looked at Sue and the dog and I went blank. And we have as the coordinator, not the coordinator, it's Jack Penton. Jack Penton will be the guy controlling all the questions for Larry Meyer, okay? Don't forget, if you want to donate to the show, go to PayPal and you can donate to Vintage Motocross Q&A. In fact, I think there's a link in the show description. Don't forget to keep sharing the show. Whether you're on Facebook or you are on YouTube, please share it. As Susie mentioned a little bit earlier, the viewer appreciation prize will be a set of grips just like this, compliments of Preston Petty Products. We've got a nice next time try this segment for you. It was brought to us by Jerry Maddox. I showed this to you a couple minutes ago.
Why is the shock so wobbly?
Look at it again.
Ryder makes a good point, and in just a few seconds, I'm going to show you why and how to service your rear suspension. Stay tuned.
I'm Jerry Maddox.
And I'm Ryder Maddox in sunny California.
And you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, hosted by Joe Abbate. Hi folks, today I want to talk to you about what I believe is one of the most important key parts to your success, and maybe even more importantly, your safety when racing vintage motorcycles. It's your rear suspension. I want you to know that there's 3 very key pivot points in your rear suspension that must be serviced and maintained. The top shock mount, the lower shock mount, and of course, the swing arm pivot. So it's very important that when you remove your shock, take a look at it and see if it has removable bushings or if it has fixed eye bushings. Either way, you need to apply a liberal amount of grease to those, so as that swing arm travels up and down, the shock can pivot ever so slightly at the top mount and the lower mount. If you allow those to become dry, crusty, rusty, and that shock can't move, that makes for very poor suspension. So it's very important to me that you lubricate that, check it, clean it often. Make it a part of your lifestyle. Now onto your rear swing arm. Your swing arm pivot bolt is one of the most neglected non-service parts on your motorcycle by many. Could be the single most important part that you lubricate on that bike. They're 10 to C's, they're hard to get out, but more importantly, you will feel the difference in your suspension. So often, remove your swing arm pivot bolt. Remove your entire swing arm and find out, is it rotating on needle bearings? Is it rotating on a big bushing? Is it rotating on sealed bearings? If you're rotating on a bushing like my Elsinore is, or even needle bearings, again, you must apply a liberal amount of grease and keep that clean. You need that swing arm to travel up and down without any resistance at all. Lastly, to answer the rider's question, why did my shock appear to be wobbly, is the term he used? It's because I don't over tighten the shock bolts. Depending again on your bushings, your shims, or whatever you may be using to space that shock properly, it's important that you don't lock the shock to the frame or to the swing arm. That's a very common mistake by over tightening and compressing the clamps onto the shock. When that happens, you put the shock into a bind. And when you bind the shock, the swing arm and the force of you riding it is going to compress the shock anyway. And guess what's going to happen? That's when a shock shaft will bend or even break. And that's a worse problem. So check your bolts. Make sure you have liberal amount of grease on those fittings. And again, for safety, for championships, don't over tighten those shock bolts. Just get them just the perfect tension where everything can move freely. And check it often. It's only your life.
Let's go test these bad boys out.
Thank you, Jerry Maddock.
I'm Brock Glover, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, and we'll be right back.
Vinco, who already has a full line of vintage parts, now has air shocks that are an exact duplicate of the original air shocks so popular in the late 70s. So whether you're looking to build a full racer or museum showpiece, these shocks will give you that incredible 70s look and improve your bike's performance. These new air shocks are fully rebuildable with Vinco rebuild kits, and all shocks are hand assembled in the USA with all new components. Every component is brand new. Just like the originals, our air shocks are adjustable with 2 chambers, high and low pressure, giving you tremendous flexibility for settings of your bike suspension. The Vinco air shocks come fully assembled and ready for installation. Just add air or nitrogen. The kits include the manual and spacers. Visit Vinco.com to check out the air shocks and all that Vinco has to offer to help you get back on track and to keep that ride going.
Vinco, with over 1,000 products in their catalog. Be sure to visit them online at vinco.com. They've also got these cylinder sleeves. Got these for a lot of different bikes, Yamahas, Huskies, and Hondas. And don't forget, when you order anything over $200, you get free shipping at vinco.com. And while I am thinking about it, I want to thank Keith Geisner. Keith sent me this shirt. This is something from his latest Geisner Motors collection, Finding Number 49. He was the author of that. Remember that great book on the Harleys? And yeah, it's got his logo on the back here. He was also the author of another fabulous book, Discovering 6 Days. Keith Geisner, thank you so much for this shirt. And yeah, it's got Rocket Rex on there. I got to get one with Kadowski on there. You know, I'm a big Don Kadowski fan. Okay. Thank you, Derfs, for being a sponsor of the show. Don't forget, everybody out there, you can get some hats, shirts, koozies, and cups from Vintage Motocross Q&A. Just let me know. We'll be happy to ship them right out to you. What's it worth? This segment is brought to you by Full Circle Racing. Be sure to visit them online at fullcircleracing.com. And don't forget, it's not only for your off-road bike, they're for on-road, off-road, adventure bikes, certainly all your race bikes and motocross bikes. Tonight's bike happens to be a 1983 KX125. This is the segment of the show where I invite you, the viewers at home, to guess how much you think this bike recently sold for. And if you do, we're going to give you stickers like this. You're going to get 2 of them. Look at that. I look like one of those guys in one of those old detective magazines where you used to block out the eyes. Remember that? Anyway, you're going to get 2 stickers just like that. Compliments of Joe Abbate. 1983 Kawasaki KX125 was acquired in 2010 by the seller, who carried out a refurbishment involving the replacing of the 125cc liquid-cooled 2-stroke single-cylinder piston and top end, the green plastic bodywork, and the XO rims. The frame and swing arm were powder-coated. Well, that's too bad that swing arm was powder-coated because it's supposed to be anodized. The forked monoshock brakes and drive chain system were overhauled, and various bearings, bushings, and hardware were replaced. The bike features a front disc brake and a 6-speed transmission. The KX125 B2 is now being offered from Florida. It is an off-road use only bike. It does not have a title. Replacement green plastic bodywork with blue and white stripes along with black number plates was mounted over the black powder-coated single down tube frame during the refurbishment, at which time the footrests were replaced as well. These are the worst write-ups I have ever heard from Bring a Trailer. Anyway, work during the refurbishment included replacing the rim spokes and axles and wheel bearings, powder coating the frame and swing arm, replacing the chain guide and the adjusters. The bike does look nice from these pictures. They also replaced the brake disc, the hose, the pads, the rear brake lever. And in this sale were 6 tubs like this of leftover parts, including 2 frames. Okay, so overall, I mean, the bike did look pretty nice. The write-up stinks to high heaven. But the bike itself really looks like a nice bike. I was impressed with it. I couldn't quite tell that swing arm was powder coated, but they say it is. And when you look at it next to the rim, it does look somewhat powder coated. So anyway, there it is. Everybody have their thinking hat on. What do you think this bike recently sold for? $3,500, $4,000, $4,500. This bike sold for $3,600 plus a 5% buyer's premium. That was like last Monday on Bring a Trailer. I want to thank Bill Masho and everybody at the Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page for keeping us up to date with so many sales that happened throughout Meekham's auction and Bring a Trailer, eBay, and so many more. Susie, do we have anybody there?
Richard Watts.
Who?
Richard Watts, L-O-T-Z-E.
Richard Watts from Ohio, and his guess was?
His guess was $35.95.
$35.95?
Yeah.
Can't get much closer than $35.95. Richard Watts, send me your email. I mean, not your email address. Send me your mailing address, and we will get you. We'll get you some stickers that Susie makes right here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Sad news last week. 2 legends and pioneers of the off-road world, Mary McGee and Malcolm Smith, passed away on the same day. Malcolm died of complications from Parkinson's disease that he has been battling with for a better part of a decade. Mary, I believe, well, not that I believe, from what I understand, she had a stroke after some routine surgery. Legends in every sense of the word, and certainly pioneers in the off-road world. Our condolences to the family and friends of Mary McGee and Malcolm Smith.
I get asked often, what's the most important thing on Clunker? The answer's simple, it's me. That's why I use Full Circle Racing wheels prepped by Tom McAllister. So should you. Watch this and learn why. When racing vintage motocross where suspension is very limited, your wheels can be the difference between winning or serious injury. We chose to run Full Circle Racing wheels because of the super high quality materials and the heavy duty spokes used. Prepped by Tom McAllister, I have the confidence on the track to push way harder through the rough stuff and the bigger jumps, knowing my wheels are going to stay under me. Hey, Clunker may be 50 years old, but his wheels are brand new, and yours should be too. Call Tom McAllister at Full Circle Racing today.
Yeah, Tom McAllister and Full Circle Racing. I'm doing so much for the vintage motocross community. And right now, he's involved with something that, well, they're giving away tickets to the Arizona Supercross. I think it's for the Arizona. Yeah, Supercross raffle. And that is in Arizona. That is coming up on February 1st. Now, if you'd like to get some tickets, it's $20 for a ticket, 3 for $50. Okay. Go over to WSMCHallOfFame.org. Okay. That's the Washington State Motorcycle Hall of Fame.org. You can get your tickets and get tickets for the show. And you'll also get, tickets for the night program, tickets for being at the event all day long, and 2 airline tickets. You can't beat that, really. That's Tom McAllister and Full Circle Racing. All right. We've got some other stuff coming up here as soon as I figure out how to get this out of my field of vision. Here we go. Here's the problem. Okay, here it is. Really, here's the problem. It's brought to you by Motion Pro. Be sure to visit them online at motionpro.com. The special is still going on with 20% across the board on everything except custom-made cables. Upon checkout, type in the code MP9135. That's MP9135. Here comes the first question. Actually, it's a special that they have going on. Grips, $12.99 for their Motion Pro Dirt Control 2 grips. They come in gray, and they've got $2 off on their black grips and their gray ones. They were $9. Now they're only $7 at motionpro.com. Now I've got the question from Darren. Hi, Joe. Quick question. Do the petcock on the CR 125 1975 face inward or outward on the tank? I thought you would know. Cheers. Love your show. Well, after a little research that I've done, there's 2 different bikes. There's a race bike on the left, and here's a beautiful restoration of a 75 CR 125 on the right. Both petcocks are facing out. And when I say facing out, I'm talking about the lever that turns the valve on and off. Now, if it were me and it was a show bike, I would definitely put the lever facing out. Got a couple little details that really would show on a real good restoration. You've got the aluminum, of course, from the petcock, but you've got that plate around the outside that says on and off on it. It's metal. If that was polished and zinced, you'd really see a little detail work in there. If it were a race bike, I would absolutely turn it around the other way. See on this race bike right here, it's sticking out. You never know what's going to happen. You're all over that bike. Your leg, your pants are a little baggy. Next thing you know, you're leaning forward, you pull back, you accidentally turn off the gas valve. Or you get into a little melee in a corner, somebody else leans over, they ride into you, they turn off the petcock, and you're standing there, what happened, wondering what happened to your bike. So I would run it facing in on a race bike, facing out on a show bike. Phil Liberty, big time supporter of the show. Phil always sends us in some great questions and shares the show. Phil says, I've been working on gathering parts for my 1974 CR 125 that I bought new. Well, you have told me to sandblast the frame and check it, paint it quickly. What do I use for primer before I paint it with the 80/20 gloss black paint? Also, where is the best place to buy the black paint? Thank you for a great show. Well, you are right, and you do want to sandblast that frame because it's going to show all in the welds, in the tight V's and crotches, so to speak, of the frame. You'll be able to see it in there where oftentimes you can't see it if it's black, that the frame has been cracked. Now, what I would recommend that you do is take it to your sandblast company, whoever that may be, or a lot of times your powder coating guys do it as well. Have them do it. Have them call you immediately to get down there and pick up the bike because you're going to have raw steel. You'll be able to see right away if there's a crack in there. And if you don't see it, you're going to take it home and immediately, to prevent it from rusting, you're going to use this. Okay? 2X Aerospray Epoxy Prime by Eastwood. This stuff is absolutely amazing. They even use it on cars for spot priming. They've got a prime there at Eastwood. Guys are actually putting it on with brushes and rollers. That's how good it is. Okay? Go and prime it with this. You'll have full protection until you get the opportunity to paint it. As far as you buying your paint, Phil, wherever you buy your paint. I mean, go to an automotive store, an automotive supply, auto body supply, and tell them what you want. And you'll get what you need if you're going to spray it out of a gun. If you're going to do it out of aerosol cans, which you can do that, they'll be able to supply you with that too. But I can assure you of one thing, when you put this gray primer on your frame, it's going to show up even more if you have a crack, a hairline somewhere, anywhere on that frame. Once you get that gray primer on there, you're going to be able to see what's going on. I hope that helps, Phil. Next question comes from, I can't see, oh, there it is, Doug. What Doug wants to know is, I think you've covered this once before, what would you recommend for a top coat for CZ? Spray can type paint. I recommend this stuff right here. And this picture looks a little small. I apologize for that, but it is a clear coat, and it is a two-part clear coat as well. It's called Spray Max 2K Glamour High Gloss. It's almost $19 a can. This stuff is really, really good, and you should not take it for granted that this is just another kind of spray paint or some kind of clear that you've used before. I have used this stuff. It is highly toxic, okay? And when I say toxic, I'm not talking about you're going to drop dead if you don't use a respirator, but I can tell you this, if you use it in your garage, you're looking for big trouble. If you use it outside, wear a mask. It's very, very potent stuff. It does an excellent job, but it's somewhat toxic. So I'm not saying wear an air respirator, but you should wear a respirator with filters on it, even if you use it outside. I made the mistake the first time I've used it, thinking I was outside and everything was just going to be fine. A little while later, my lungs began to hurt. I'm not kidding. Don't fool around with this stuff. It's awesome, but wear protection when you use it. Last question, Mike Blank. Would be nice to discuss vintage shocks. Vinco and No Lean are great, but what older shock can be rebuilt and restored? Hard to find anything left from the 70s. You know, I'm going to leave this up to the viewers in the audience tonight. If whoever is out there, whatever shocks you're using, why don't you make a comment? This way we can help Mike out a little bit. Now, I've always been a big fan of Works Performance. I don't really see them around that much anymore. They say the website is open. They say you can get some shocks built from Works Performance. I always love them. If you can't get to them, you're going to spend a whole lot more money out there and get yourself a set of Öhlins, No Lean, Clark Jones, great guy. I would highly recommend him. And you know what? If you're just kind of a weekend racer once in a while, even once a month, they're not rebuildable, but they're not expensive. Go out and get yourself a set of progressive shocks. The only problem with them is if your shock runs like a 14 and a quarter, if your bike has a 14 and a quarter inch shock, they only come maybe in 14 or 14 and a half. You can't get them really to that quarter of an inch mark you may be looking for at time. But anybody out there who's watching the show, make a comment, please, in the comment section. Let us know what you think some of the good shocks are that would be available. I want to thank Motion Pro for being a longtime sponsor of Vintage Motocross Q&A. We are going to take a commercial break, and we will be right back in a minute. Don't forget, we have trivia coming up in a little while, and we've got some great segments from Jeff Kokoski as well. We'll be right back with more Vintage Motocross.
Hi,
Q&A.
I'm Warren Reed. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. We'll be right back.
Motocross struck America, coming from Europe like a lightning bolt, striking the hearts and minds of people all across the country and the world. Battles of intense racing and cutting rivalries with loyalty to brands and heroes intensified as years of blood, sweat, and dirt flew through the minds of those memories of champions as they wrestled their machines through almost impossible tracks. But where are those past champions? And where are their bikes? Terry Good, an ex-pro motocross racer, has made it his life mission to honor these heroes and the bikes they rode to stardom. We raced, we rode, we lived and breathed motocross. Go back in time and relive those moments, now preserved for the first time ever in the world's first museum dedicated to the history of motocross. Our new building is in the gate. Help us get a great start and you can be part of history. Go to internationalmotocrossmuseum.org and become a part of our team.
Trivia is coming up in just a little while. We'll be giving away posters like this. Any poster that you like, compliments of the International Motocross Museum. And while I'm thinking about it, the International Motocross Museum is a not-for-profit 501c3 organization. Christmas is coming up. It's a great time to get over there. Get your moto enthusiast a hat, a shirt, sweatshirts, hoodies, clocks, posters. There's all kinds of things happening there at the International Motocross Museum. The Moto Showcase tonight is brought to you by Preston Petty Products. Thank you, Paul and Patty Standard, for all you've done for us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A over the years. Tonight's bike was sent in to us by Claude Geisner. Claude Geisner is from Canada, and he has a very special KX125 here, that KX250, I'm sorry, that he purchased. Well, let me tell you the story and how Claude actually came upon this bike. Let's start with the story behind the bike. October of 1977, a friend and fellow competitor, Don Gill, called me up on a Wednesday. He asked me what I was doing that evening, and I should come over to his place and to bring my truck and my bike. When I got there, he opened his garage door, and there was this Schrick Kawasaki KX250, all shiny and green, with gold rims and that beautiful swing arm. It looked like one of Weinert's or Gary Semix's bikes were racing at the time. It looked like a true works bike. Don told me that the local Kawasaki shop called him and gave him this KX so he could race it at the last race of the season that was coming up this weekend. So we went out to our practice track and broke it in. The bike was amazing. It was light and fast. It steered quickly, just a joy to ride. Of course, Don won it with it that weekend at that race, beating all of us on that trick KX. The following spring, the local dealer gave Don 2 new KXs, a 125 and a 250 for the 78 season. When I saw the new bike, I noticed that there was some difference between the first one I rode in October and the one that Don had. The bike we rode in October that sat in the dealership for the most part of the year, then it was gone. Now, let's forward to 2008. At the motorcycle show in January, another friend of mine, Trevor, asked me if I was interested in the motorcycle that a friend of his wanted to sell. He said that it was seized up, but it was partly apart. I asked him, what about the bike? What condition was it in? He told me it was a 78 KX. I didn't hesitate. Trevor told me to come and get the bike, or that his dad would be in the area. He would deliver it to me, which was even a bigger bonus. When Trevor called that KX was in, I went over to pick it up, and as soon as I saw it, it took me back to the fall of 1977. The difference then that I remembered from them seeing them were there was only 2 bikes that were in Manitoba, and one of them had to be this one. Also, the KX that I had was frame number 00022. So there was a good chance that this was one of those bikes, being mine had the low number frame. Vintage Motocross 13, the magazine, issue number 13.2, says that Kawasaki only made 1,717 of these bikes, including prototypes and pre-production machines. With my bike being such a low number at 00022, I'd say that it was safe to say that this is one of the first bikes that were off the line. Claude Geisner, I want to thank you for sending in this bike to us. I would also like to give you a couple of stickers just like this, compliments of Vintage Motocross Q&A. You may have responded already with your mailing address. If you haven't, please send it to me again. And Claude Geisner, thank you for daily sending me pictures of some incredible motorcycles and old school pictures. I often share them on the Vintage Motocross Q&A page, as well as on the International Motocross Museum Facebook page as well. Thank you, Paul Standard and Preston Petty Products, for being a sponsor. Don't forget, get over to PrestonPetty.com. There's one of their latest products right here. This is that rear tail light that comes with that thick, durable, Rubbermaid license plate holder. I mentioned it earlier. New York Swap Meet is upon us. It's going to be here. Happens on January 12th. And as I mentioned the night before, Larry, I almost called him Larry Huffman. Of course, it is not Larry Huffman. It's Larry Meyer will be there, and the moderator of that Q&A session will be Jack Penton. A lot of history between the Pentons and Larry, and I'm sure we're going to hear some great stories that come out from that. Serious Studio. I tell you, I love this clothing line, and I would, Larry or Steven, if you're watching, see that powder blue shirt there in the middle? I'd love to have one of those here. It's a really toasty. I saw it on display. You guys were down at Langston's, and you had some stuff there to display. I really like the quality of what you have here. Now, listen to me, guys. There's a lot of people out there that like to go to some sporting events or wherever you're going, like out with your wife to a barbecue. She's tired of seeing you in that FMF shirt or Yamaha or Honda or whatever shirt it is. She wouldn't mind if you wore a t-shirt with a little something on it like this that said Sirius Studios, but she's tired of seeing you traipse around at those barbecues with those same old shirts that you always wear. Of course, you got the guys there that wear the golf shirts with the collars, and they look so neat and nice. But what do you want to do? You want to throw some shade on those guys, but you want to do it politely. Get your SiriusStudio.com shirt. You wear that to the barbecue, okay? You flex on your wife a little bit. She doesn't even realize it's really a motorcycle shirt. And, you know, you feel like you got a little power over the situation. SiriusStudios.co.
Really?
Catch it out. Yeah, I'm not kidding, Stu. Thank you, Larry Winter, Stephen Winter, everybody at Sirius Studio. I mentioned last week that Kyle Peters was involved with the Sirius Studio line. Actually, Sirius Studio is making some jerseys and some gear for Honda. Well, I have just learned that one of my favorite riders of all time, Trey Kennard, is going to be involved with Sirius Studio as well. So keep an eye out for Sirius Studio and Trey Kennard. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. What have I been talking about all night? What is one of my favorite things to do on the first Wednesday of every month? Susie, what is it? Trivia. Trivia returns. And tonight you're going to have your choice of any poster like this, compliments of Terry Good and the International Motocross Museum. All right. We are going to, I'm going to read you the trivia question. We're going to take a little break, hear from Motion Pro, and when we come back, I will give you the answer. All right. This is not a call-in segment. You are going to write it in the comments section. You're going to write it in the comments section, okay? Here it is. Name the first racer to ever finish the Baja 500 solo. The first winner to ever finish the Baja 500 solo. Now, this is a motorcycle program. There are people that do finish the 500 and they finish it in cars, Jeeps, and trucks. But this person happened to finish on a motorcycle. Tell me who it was. First person to finish the Baja 500 solo. Should I give him a little hint, Sue? What do you think? It happened after 1970. Live with that. We'll be back in a couple.
What's up, everybody? Anthony Vicencio here today at Motion Pro. One thing, when you talk to any suspension tech, a lot of times the first thing that they're going to ask you is, what's your rider sag? Now, sag's a measurement that you want to take into account and kind of keep an eye on. And in order to do that, we have a couple products that'll help you here, make it a lot easier for you to do. The first one's going to be our Sag Scale 2. It comes folded up like this, compact. You unfold it, has the laser etching for the numerals, very easy to see. And then if you flip it over on the back side, it brings the numerals down a little bit lower so that you're able to take measurements on mini bikes. So this actually works on full-size bikes and mini bikes. Then this here is going to be the sliding cone, which is going to go in the axle. You just lock that into place just like that, and you'll be able to take your measurement. So I'll fold that up there. And then if you have to make an adjustment to your sag, on most bikes, you're going to need a shock spanner punch. Now ours is pretty long, so it makes any of the shock collars that are a little bit difficult to get to a little bit more accessible because of the length of this. Also, it has a brass tip, so this will deform and potentially not damage the shock body or the collar, the locking collar that you're going to be punching on. As you can see, this brass tip's been used up quite a bit, so it's a little deformed. One thing that you can do that's really convenient is you could take a small hand file and then give it a couple passes. You could get it nice and sharp just like this. That way it's nice and precise again. So again, sag is very important to take into account. If you go to any pro supercross race or motocross race, you'll see that they're monitoring that throughout the day. It's an important thing to keep in mind. If you like these products, or if you're interested in seeing some more like this, then you can always visit our website, www.motionpro.com, check out our YouTube page, and most importantly, always stop by your dealer and see what they have in stock. So, hope you guys are riding safe and having fun.
Okay, Susie tells me that somebody got the answer before I even went to the commercial. Okay, and the answer is Mary McGee. She was the first person, forget man, woman, or undecided, that came across at the Baja 500 all by herself on a motorcycle. Okay. So that was kind of funny. I made myself laugh. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody was undecided at the Baja 500.
No.
Mary McGee was the first one to ride a motorcycle by herself.
It was John Zazella.
John Zazella. John Zazella, you are tonight's winner.
He was the first one, but
You-
there's several who said it.
There are several who said it.
Yeah, Claude said it, Brian Matthews said it, a couple of others said it.
Here's what I'm going to do. John Zazella, get me your mailing address. And you also have to pick out a poster. Okay, pick out a poster like this. Go to the International Motocross Museum Facebook page. You'll see a post like this. Pick out a poster. Tell me what it is. Tell me your address. I will have Terry Good send it directly to your door. Now, being that went kind of quickly, here's what I'm going to do. During that commercial, I went out and I didn't go very far. I went behind me. And I got this. You see this? This is a Marty Smith sticker sheet. My friend and Marty Smith's friend, Richard Vasallo, had these made after the tragic passing of Marty and Nancy Smith. There aren't many of these around. There were only a few hundred made. I have a couple that were left over. I would like somebody to tell me what country Malcolm Smith was born in, because it wasn't America. First person to tell me, type in, what country was Malcolm Smith born in? You will win this Marty Smith sticker sheet. I'll mail it right out to you. He was not born in America. Where was Malcolm Smith born?
Where was Malcolm Smith born?
Did you know? This segment is brought to us by Jeff Kokoski every week. And Susie will tell me after I get through this segment who the first person that correctly tells us where Malcolm Smith was born. But anyway, Jeff Kokoski brought this up this week. It's really, really good. Did you know? The rather sad story a couple of weeks ago about the Dunlop tire plant closing in Western New York got me to thinking, did you know? Well, did you know how Dunlop tires came about? Born in Scotland in 1840 and trained as a veterinary surgeon, John Boyd Dunlop, along with his brother, James, started the Down Veterinary Clinic in Downpatrick, Ireland in 1867. Shortly after his marriage in 1871, J.B. Dunlop moved his practice to Belfast, and by the mid-1880s, the veterinary clinic became one of the largest in the land. As his family began to grow in 1887, Dunlop developed the first pneumatic tire by taking an inflated tube and a sheet of rubber and attached it to the front wheel of his 10-year-old son Johnny's tricycle after Johnny experienced headaches while riding over rough ground. When compared to the traditional metal wheels on a tricycle, Dunlop was amazed at how much easier his pneumatic tire rolled across the lawn. Soon he moved on to develop larger pneumatic tires for a bicycle and even more astounding results. While Dunlop's idea for a pneumatic tire was not the first to receive a patent, the honor goes to another Scotsman, Robert William Thompson. Dunlop's tire was the first to go into wide sale of production, though. In 1889, Irish cyclist Willie Hume. I don't know if I have a picture here of old Willie Hume. Do I? No, this is Strebos. That's another guy. Okay. And once again, I got ahead of myself a little bit here. 1889, Irish cyclist Willie Hume was the first to use Dunlop's tires in competition, winning a bicycle race in Ireland and then in England. Dunlop's tire caught the eye of Irish financier Harvey de Croos. Here's Harvey. Okay, who was the president of Irish Cyclists Association and whose sons were soundly beaten by Hume using the pneumatic tire. By the early 1890s, J.B. Dunlop sold his veterinary practice, moved to Dublin, and went into business with Harvey de Croos to mass produce the tires. How about that? Very, very interesting. Anyway, Dunlop and de Croos resurrected the defunct Dublin-based company known as Booth Brothers and renamed it Pneumatic Tire and Booth's Cycle Agency, under which the first tires began to be manufactured. By the early 1890s, the pneumatic tire had established a division in Europe and North America, and in 1895, J.D. Dunlop sold out the majority of his interest in the business, believing that there was nothing more for the company beyond motorcycle tires. Big mistake, as the internal combustion engine began to come onto the world stage and start of the 20th century, the demand for rubber tires absolutely exploded. Hooley Actually, it was Englishman Ernest Terahuli. He's the one who bought the company for £3 million. That's the equivalent today of $629 million. Okay? Man, that's a lot of loot. He paid that and he bought the company. At that time in 1896, there were lots of changes to the company and they were starting to occur. While still involved in the original tire company, the Cross acquired one of Dunlop's suppliers called Brin Brothers India Rubber. Cross changed the name of that company to Rubber Tire Manufacturing, then Dunlop Pneumatic Tire as the majority investor. All the internal changes occurring within the company at that time of competition from other manufacturers caused Dunlop to lose quite a bit of the market share. Michelin of France and Continental of Germany became the larger tire suppliers in Europe, and other guys and companies got into the game as well, people with familiar names such as Firestone, Goodyear, and General. Because of overhead inefficiencies in the summer of 1912, Dunlop Pneumatic Tire went out of business and passed activities to Dunlop Rubber. Throughout the early 20th century, Dunlop Rubber would diversify into many rubber-based products, but the tire was, well, it was their core business. John Boyd Dunlop, the man that brought the first successful pneumatic tire to the world, died at his home in Dublin in 1921. Now you may ask, where did the word tire come from? It's short form of attire. That's right. From the word attire, because a wheel without a tire on it was, well, undressed. So a dressed wheel was known as a wheel that had a tire on it. So it began to be called a tire. In the UK, the spelling T-Y-R-E was used commonly in the late 19th century to signify the use of pneumatic tire, and it is still in use today. Jeff Kokoski, coming up with another great, really incredible information, Jeff. I love these segments that you've been doing for us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A, and that one was a really special one as well. We're going to take a little break. We're going to hear from our sponsor, ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com. When we get back, this week in motocross history, and then we will wrap it up.
You don't have the answer.
Oh, we're also going to have the answer. We don't have an answer today, or we do? Okay, we'll tell you about that when we get back after we hear from Paul Parkinson and ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com. Many answers. Well, I'm only going to take one.
Hi, I'm Paul Parkinson with Replica Motorcycle Parts. I'm sitting here with our test bike, which is ridden by Jerry Maddox. It carries the #1 plate in the US. Let's go over a couple of the parts that we've got on here. We've got our ignition cover with the case saver built into it, so that when the chain comes off, you're not damaging your cases. Spacer, foot pegs. Jerry runs our air box. Seat brackets, keeps the seat on tight so he doesn't fall off when he's going over the whoops. And then on this side, Jerry runs a couple little things, a lot of little rubber parts on the bike, and that stuff are all done by us. And then down here we've got our brake pedal, which has got needle bearings in there, and then it's got a wider toe peg, so it gives them a real nice, clean, easy to use brake. And then this is our latest part. This is a CR250 type knuckle. In fact, Honda used them on the last versions of the MR175s, and this is a real trick aluminum Kickstarter arm. So that gives them lightweight, strength, and reliability more than anything else.
Okay, ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com. If you think you saw a lot of parts on that bike right there in that video, that's nothing. Okay, ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com has an incredible amount of product. Be sure to get over to their website, ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com. Always something new from Paul Parkinson, and it is a happy belated birthday to Paul Parkinson as well. I felt that I should give away a little something else tonight. So just a moment ago, I asked what country was Malcolm Smith born in? And Susie?
Well, Mike Connolly said it first.
Mike Connolly said it first?
Through Canada, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Malcolm Smith was born in Canada. Yeah. Who else?
Alan Huey, Claude, of course. Bill
Right.
Mazarod, David Dennis.
Okay, look.
Brian Webley.
Okay, a lot of guys got it, but the first one to get it
was Mike Connolly.
Is that dog been sitting on your lap the whole show?
No, he just got back up here again.
Unbelievable. What a camera hug.
He's in what?
I only have so many of these left, okay? And while I appreciate everyone playing along, I did say the first person to guess where Malcolm Smith was born would get the sticker sheet. I have to honor that. It was Mike Conley. Mike Conley, get me your address, and I will put this in the mail to you. Thanks for playing along. And yeah, that's it. What do we got coming up next? This week in motocross history. Absolutely one of my favorite segments of the show. Brought to you by Racer X. Be sure to visit them online at racerx.com. 1953. We going way back there this time, huh? It was Danny Laporte's birthday. It was yesterday. He's an AMA Motorcycle Hall of Famer who rose to prominence as a motocrosser in Southern California in the mid-'70s. He became the 1979 AMA 500cc national champion while riding with Suzuki. And then he joined Team Honda teammates Donnie Hansen, Johnny O'Mara, and Chuck Sun. And the USA shocked the world in 1981 when they won the FIM Motocross and Trophy des Nations. 1 year later, he became the FIM 250cc world champion up against a heavily favored George Joe Abbate. And it is not, well, yeah, part of it is here. He did win the Baja 1000. He also won the, what's the other one called? The Pharaohs race in Egypt. Grueling race through Egypt. He won that as well. And he took a second place. I think it was in the Paris-Dakar. Anyway, Danny Laporte, very, very accomplished racer and just one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. 1973, it's the final round of the Trans Am Series, and it's at Saddleback Park. Mako's Adolf Veal and Suzuki's Roger DeCoster swap moto wins and runner-up finishes, with Veal coming out on top in the second moto for the overall as well as the series championship. The top American would be in sixth place, and that was Rich Thorwoodson. This is interesting. And this picture that I'm showing you right here of Ron Lechien doesn't exactly line up with what I'm going to tell you, but it's kind of a little added bonus here. Ron Lechien, the youngest rider to ever win a Grand Prix at that time. He was only 17 years old. It was 1985. It was in Unadilla, New York. I think there have been some Europeans that have won some Grand Prix that may have only been 16, but at that time, 1985, Ron Lechien was the youngest guy to ever win a GP on American soil. Okay, now here's where it gets interesting. Honda ran a slick marketing campaign based on the AMA's new production rule, which would be coming into play in 1986. All riders had to be on a production-based motorcycle rather than on a one-off factory works bike. Honda, which had the edge on everyone at the time when it came out with factory bikes, made a point that their production bike would be so much better than anybody else's because of their results over the past 12 years, including Ronnie winning that race in 1985. The problem was that the ad also featured in 1985 the AMA 125cc national champion, Ron Lechien, who had just been fired from the team after being arrested. Well, Ron Lechien was arrested in Japan over something that is incredibly trivial by today's standard. It happened at Tokyo Airport. Lechien would then sign with Kawasaki and begin competing against his former team and their lineup of Bailey, O'Mara, and newcomer Ricky Johnson and Mickey Diamond. Ron Lechien, behind Marty Tripes, the most talented natural rider that ever existed, bar none. That's it for this week in motocross history. Want to become a sponsor of Vintage Motocross Q&A? You can get a hold of me. What do you want, Susie?
Viewer appreciation.
We're going to do the viewer appreciate. You know what? You look so beautiful on camera. Let me put you back on full screen like that. Come on, sit up straight. Put your head back. Put out your lovely American breasts. There you go. Beautiful.
But what, you want the...
Yeah, tell me who the viewer appreciation winner was, and they get grips from motion from
Kelly Cole.
Who?
Kelly Cole.
Kelly Cole. You get a set of grips. Compliments of Preston Petty products and courtesy of the one and only Paul Stannard.
Right.
Send me your email or your mailing address. Send me your mailing address. I'll get it to Paul Stannard,
Right.
and we'll get you your grips. Want to become a sponsor of Vintage Motocross Q&A? Might not be a bad idea. Next week, I am going to post what our weekly numbers are for this show. They're staggering. Staggering when I tell you over 100,000. The show gets shared a lot. There are a lot of people that are watching it. Our sponsors are very, very happy with the results that they're seeing being part of Vintage Motocross Q&A. Thank you, RacerX, FastGuyStuff.com. Ben's Mini Bike Podcast. The new episode is happening this Sunday, December 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's this Sunday, December 8th, Eastern Standard Time. You know what else is happening? There's a great race coming up this weekend. Arizona Vintage Desert Racing Association, the AVDRA, has a vintage race coming up, and it's a two-day event. It's a two-day event that happens this weekend, that happens at Shorty's Sports Park in Blythe, California. That's on Saturday, December 7th, in which we all remember Pearl Harbor, and Sunday, December 8th, which is when John Lennon was shot. What?
December 8th?
Yeah, December 8th. John Lennon was shot on December 8th, and sadly, the tragedy at Pearl Harbor was on December 7th. But we can forget all that because we can go racing this weekend, December 7th and December 8th at Shorty's Sport Park in Blythe, California. Sue?
I know.
All right?
There's always something happening.
There's always something going on in California. Wait a minute, I got something else. Hey, for you guys that aren't going to have a hangover, there's a Hangover Classic race that's coming up on January 1st. Of course, New Year's Day. That is happening at the Shad Road track. Okay, that's in Marysville. Great track. That's happening on January 1st. Al Roof, the Catawba River Basin Bike and Breakfast. That happens this Sunday, December 8th. World Pretend to Be a Time Traveler Day. You know, Al, I don't know what you guys are putting in your coffee down there in Gastonia, but you become a world traveler when you drink it and you meet for breakfast? Hey, who am I to argue with that? I wish I lived closer to Gastonia. All right. That wraps it up for this week's Vintage Motocross Q&A. Thank you again, Keith Geisner, for the shirt. Thank you all for watching. And we will be back. I am working on bringing you an interview with an AMA Hall of Fame inductee next weekend. You'll know more about it in the next couple of days, certainly by Monday. That wraps it up for Vintage Motocross Q&A. Congratulations to everybody. Come on, Jane. Come on, Jersey. Congratulations to everybody that won a little something here on the show tonight, okay? We'll see you next time on Vintage Motocross Q&A. We'll see you then.
Bye. Okay, good job, Gene.
Good job, Gino. Let's put the end credits on. Ready?